Hey everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name's Amanda if you don't know who I am. And today we are going to be making vanilla brown sugar fig jam. It is so tasty and only a few ingredients. You need figs, lemon juice, vanilla extract, and brown sugar. And it is really tasty and there's not a lot of sugar in it, which I really like that about this recipe. So I'm going to show you how I make it. And we're going to use the water bath method. Let's go ahead and can some up. Okay, so for this recipe, I am doubling it. I will put in the description box my measurements for, not doubling it and all that. But because we're doubling it, I have a lot of figs I need to use up. I have figs in this refrigerator in here, and I also have figs in my refrigerator out in the garage. So in this bowl, I have washed up 150 figs. So we're gonna go ahead and start cutting these up, and I like to cut mine in half to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the inside, like any insects that could be the fig wasp or worms. And I also like to make sure that it looks good and it's not, it's not bad. So let's go ahead and start this. Okay, so you want to remove the stem and then you're going to cut them in half. And it looks really good. So we're going to go ahead and put it in our pot. And I'm going to be using a big pot. This is the size of the pot I am using. That way nothing splats on the side. So let's go ahead and cut all these up. Also, when I remove figs from the tree, I like to try to leave the stem on. I find that when the stem is on, they last a little bit longer in the fridge. They can last up 5 to 7 days in the fridge, which is perfect. And you want to do a container and then do paper towel, figs, and then, keep repeating the process. Let me pull it out and I'll show you what it looks like. So see, I have paper towels on the bottom and then a line of figs and then paper towels and then more figs. I didn't put anything on top. You can do saran wrap if you'd like to, but definitely wash them up, let them dry, and then put them in this. And it is good for 5 to 7 days. All right, I'm gonna put this away and let's keep continuing on cutting up the figs.
I made this recipe a few days ago and I used 225 figs for it. I was able to get 17 half-pint jars. And it's really nice having a different variety of fig jams for my kids because, we have 4 fig trees and we get a lot of figs every year. So it's really nice having different flavors for them. And this one's really tasty.
We now have all 150 figs cut up in half, and now we're going to go ahead and start adding in the rest of our ingredients. We are not turning this on yet until we have everything in that we need. So we need 8 tablespoons of brown sugar. And again, I am doubling this recipe and I will link it in the description box down below. All right, so 8 tablespoons of brown sugar. And it's nice, I'm just gonna use the same tablespoon for the other ingredients. We need 8 tablespoons of vanilla extract. Now we need 6 tablespoons of lemon juice. All right, we have all 6 tablespoons of lemon juice. All right, so that's 150 figs, 8 tablespoons of brown sugar, 8 tablespoons of vanilla extract, and 6 tablespoons of lemon juice. Now we are going to go ahead and get our immersion blender and we're going to blend it up. And while we're doing that, we're also going to turn the stove to medium heat. So let me go get my immersion blender real fast. Okay, so I'm turning the stove to medium. I have my immersion blender and we're going to go ahead and start blending it up. And this is really nice because it gives a thicker consistency doing this with it instead of blending it up in the blender. With the blender, it gives a really nice smooth texture. You can do that too if you would like. This one for the vanilla brown sugar, I like it to be a little thicker, so I like using the immersion blender for it. So we're gonna go ahead and do that.
Yeah. I like this immersion blender a lot because it detaches from the handle part and it makes it nice to really easily wash it. I've had one in the past where it did not do that, and I had to watch out for the wire, making sure the wire didn't get in the water. But this is perfect. I really like this Cuisinart immersion blender. It's amazing. And so you can blend it up to the liking of how you want your consistency to be for the fig jam.
Okay, so now that I have everything blended up the way I want it to the consistency I want, I still have it on medium heat. We're gonna go ahead and give it a stir. It feels really nice and thick. That's what I want it to feel like. And I don't use pectin in this at all to get it to be thicker. It just works out perfect using the immersion blender to get it to be the thickness I want. So anyways, we're gonna let it come to like a popping boil at the medium heat because I don't want to burn it or scorch it on the bottom. So we're just gonna wait until it starts to bubble, and then we'll let it bubble for 7 minutes while stirring it constantly, kind of like we did with the raspberry fig jam. So just stir it periodically.
It's a rainy day, and while I'm making fig jam, the kids are building a fort in the living room.
And my dishwasher is finishing up. So I'll be back and check on it in a bit, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's bubbling. Okay, it is starting to bubble. If I stop, it's gonna do it. Let me show you what it looks like. See? So here's where you want to keep stirring it, and we're going to set our timer for 7 minutes. Keep it at the medium heat. Timer is set, and this is where you want to constantly stir it. And then once the 7 minutes is up, we're going to turn the heat down to low, and we're going to let it cook for a good 20 to 30 minutes. I like to do 30 minutes. This one I don't do the set test for the jam because it's perfect. I really like how it sets with how thick this is when you spread it on toast. So just keep stirring it. We'll be back in 7 minutes. Our 7-minute timer just went off. We're gonna go ahead and turn the stove to low, and we're gonna stir periodically. I'm gonna set our timer for 30 minutes. The 30 minutes timer just went off, and I'm really liking how the consistency of this is. Let me zoom in so you can see how it looks. And my jars just got done too in the dishwasher, so I pulled all those out. I got everything set up that I need to go ahead and start canning these up. So let me show you how this looks.
I normally like to use my silicone spatulas that have the flat edge, so when I stir, I can really feel the bottom of the pot, but it was washing up in the dishwasher, so I didn't have it at that point, but this one was fine, but it looks great.
It's nice and thick. You can feel how thick it is while stirring it, and that's really what I want the consistency to be.
It is definitely time to start filling these jars up. We're going to use a wide mouth funnel, and I'm going to go ahead and use a measuring cup so that way I can easily scoop what I want and then just scrape it on the side of the pot so that way I don't have any drippings dripping off on the side or on my counter. And then just going to fill them all the way up, and I'm going to leave a 1/4 inch of a headspace at each top of the jars.
All right, so before I forget, I'm going to taste it. I have made this one so many times that I like the flavor. It's really good. All right, let's go continuing canning those up, but it's really good.
I really like this vanilla brown sugar fig jam recipe because it's great on toast. And not only that, but if you have recipes that call for applesauce, you can substitute the applesauce with this fig jam, and it is just so tasty, and it's healthy too. I love doing the 1/2 pint jars for when I make fig jam. I have 2 bigger jars out as well because I'm getting kind of low on some of the 1/2 pints, but it's perfect because my kids like having this as like applesauce and just opening it up and having it right out of the jar. So that's why I like the 1/2 pints for these. It's also really tasty over vanilla yogurt or even just the plain Greek yogurt because there's so much flavor already in this jam, so it's really tasty. I am now using my silicone spatula that I really like to use to make jam with because it's flat on the bottom and it just works perfect for when you're making jam, so that way you can really feel how the jam feels on the bottom of the pot. But anyways, I'm scraping up all the extra jam to try to fill the 2 larger pint-sized jars, and I'm taking one of the smaller ones to try to equal it out, because I'd rather have the two big ones filled, save the smaller one for when I make some other jams. But make sure that you have 1/4 of an inch headspace on each jar. Then you want to make sure you have no bubbles in any of your jams. And if you do, you're going to want to take a knife and you're just going to scoop it in on the side and try to get that air bubble to work itself out. You can also pat it down on the counter like I'm doing here to help level out the top. Some of them have little air bubbles in it, so I'm just taking the knife to pop them and kind of spread the jam through so that way there are no air bubbles when I can this up. Definitely check all the jars to make sure there are no air bubbles. This is a thicker jam, so this one has a little bit more than the raspberry fig jam, because the raspberry fig jam that I made in the previous video is a smoother consistency, whereas this one's thicker. It did have more bubbles. And that's no problem if there are bubbles. Just go through, take the knife and fix it, and you'll be perfectly fine. And this is nice too because I was able to get rid of more of that jam in that smaller jar. But the kids will definitely enjoy whatever is left over.
Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and start getting the water heated up, and I have on the bottom, it's actually a cake cooling rack, and it's got little feet so that way it's not sitting directly on the bottom of the pot. So we're going to go ahead and turn this up to high, and I'm going to go ahead and take my measuring cup that I have filled with water, and I'm going to heat it up. I'm going to do 3 minutes on it. That way then I can put my lids in it and heat those up. And then let me wipe down the rims to the jars too as well. So let's get that going.
Now that my water is all heated up, I'm going to go ahead and place my lids in the water. Once they're all in, I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and wipe down each rim of the jars to clean it. I'm going to wipe it with water and then dry them.
All right, so you just want to take it and damp it in the water. I made sure that we have no air bubbles and that there is a 1/4 inch head space. This is where you want to make sure that there's nothing sticky on it.
Just go through and wipe them all down, and then once you wipe them all down, then go back through and dry them all down too. This just makes sure that you're getting everything sticky off the rim. You don't want to have anything around the rim to contaminate the seal when you are sealing it, because that can really mess up how it seals. So make sure that there's no jam whatsoever on the top part of the rim of the jar. Now that all the tops of the jars have been wiped down, now it's time to go ahead and put the lids on and the rings on, and you just want to make it to where it's finger tight, not really hand tight, and just make sure that they're all good to go and ready before you start putting them in the water.
All my jars are ready to go into the water. We are just waiting for the water to come to a nice boil, and then that way we can start the process. But look how beautiful they look. There's no air bubbles. It tastes so good. My kids are loving what was left over in that little jar. So once this comes to a boil, we will start processing them, and I'll show you how to do that. We'll be right back. My water is coming to a good boil, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the jars in, and I'm splitting them up into 2 rounds because I have 2 pints and I have 8 half pints. So I figured if I split them up into 2, that's just doing it 2 times. So we're gonna go ahead and add them in. And you want to make sure your water is about a good 1 to 2 inch above the lids. Hi. And I'll show you what it looks like once I get the last one in. It looks like in the water. So now we're going to go ahead and put the lid on. And then once it comes to a good boil, we will set the timer for 10 minutes. My water is now to a really good boil, so I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 10 minutes. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. The 10-minute timer just went off, so now we're going to go ahead and turn the stove off, and we're going to remove the lid. We're going to set the timer for 5 minutes. And once the 5 minutes is up, we're gonna go ahead and remove the jars. Okay, so my 5-minute timer just went off. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the jars and repeat the process.
You want to let your jars sit on the counter for 24 hours to make sure that they properly seal, and you'll hear them start popping, which is a good sign.
All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and get the next 5 in. Put it back to high. Repeat the steps. Put my lid on, and then once it comes to a boil, set the timer for 10 minutes. Then once the 10 minutes is done, then turn the stove off and remove the lid, let it sit for 5 minutes. But thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed what I made. I hope you try making it if you have fig trees. It is really tasty, and I like that there's not a lot of sugar in it. But thank you again for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye.